If you ever feel like you're running out of topics, tell your story. Your story is intriguing enough. You just haven't told it to anyone yet. You don't need anything other than that phone that you're watching this on to make high quality content. These tools that you have in front of you will work. You got to get people to pay attention. Attention is currency. So understanding that you need attention to grow your brand is very important. And the only way you can do that is to be. Welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Creator Podcast. I am your host, Justin Berry. And it's just me today. I'm excited to be with you. I'm going to be talking about a few things, but mainly my subject matter will be about how to never run out of content ideas. And my goal for you is to just release that power that you have within you when it comes to telling stories. And I want to be clear from the jump. Coming up with content ideas is not easy. It sometimes can be very difficult to figure out what am I going to talk about now, or am I continuing to talk about the same things over and over? Believe me, I teach content all week. I discuss content all week. I'm creating my own content now here with this podcast, and trying to always come up with something fresh and new can be very hard. I find myself often trying to get inspired by the things around me to really figure out where I can go next with what I'm teaching my audience. So I know you're there too, and I know you're trying to figure out. In fact, some of you all are trying to figure out how to even get started. Right? You're trying to figure out, where's my authority? What can I talk about that people will be willing to listen to? Let me be the first to tell you. You have to really come up with engaging content that's going to be, intriguing enough for people to sit with you for a long period of time, even a short period of time. But you got to be able to keep people's attention spans, and that's the difficult part of it all, right? We know that it's 2023, getting ready to go into 2024. We have to be, of the understanding that people's attention spans are growing shorter and shorter. And believe it or not, your content needs to be, kind of adjusting to that type of attention span. So in this podcast, we're going to talk about it. We're going to jump into it, and I hope that you all find a lot of value. Before I get started, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Be sure to give me a follow. Let me know that you're active. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think of episodes you've seen so far. And turn on those notifications so that you can get aware when we drop new episodes. We drop 2 episodes a week. Hopefully a ton of value in each of them. And I hope you really are becoming a part of our community here. So first, let's just talk about why it's so important to be consistently releasing content. The number one reason why you should consistently release content is because the more you release, the greater chance you have of converting. And I know on these calls, I'm talking to business owners, I'm talking to entrepreneurs. And I know on these calls, I'm talking to the entrepreneur, I'm talking to the business owner, I'm talking to the individual that really wants to grow their brand and become a household name in the industry that they're in. And so to do that, you got to get the eyeballs. And what I mean by that is you got to get people to pay attention. Attention is currency. That's what we always hear from the Gary V's of the world, right? That attention is the currency. And so understanding that you need attention to grow your brand is very important. And the only way you can do that is to be consistent with posting. Another reason to stay consistent with posting is that you got to get your reps in. How else do you get better at something other than continually doing it? You have to really practice at the thing that you want to get good at in order to see results. And so as you continue to put content out, that is your practice. Right? Right now, in this moment, I am practicing my communication. I am practicing what I want to be good at. And I just got to keep getting these reps in. And you got to do the same. I'll tell you, your first videos will always be your worst videos. And in fact, what I suggest is just put it out and never look at it again. Don't rush back to figure out, oh man, I said this wrong. Oh, I sound stupid. Oh, I don't like my voice. Oh, I don't like the way I look. Those are all things that will stop you from making the content. But it's important to know that just putting it out, it's going to reach some people. Some people are going to like it. Some people aren't. But regardless, the eyes are coming in now. People are starting to notice it. People are starting to see it. And for those that actually matter to you, those individuals that will become supporters, that will become part of your community, they like it and they begin to join in and support you in many different ways. And so it's important to make sure that you are aware of that, right? So that's my second reason. Just try to stay as consistent as you can. My third reason for staying consistent and creating content is just so that you can continue to create fresh ideas, right? And we're going to dig deeper into how you do that. But understanding that if you only do a video once every few months, or you only create a piece of content once every few months, your marketing brain doesn't really get its muscle used. And so you just continue to make the same type of content over and over again. Instead, continuing to put out content, you'll see that you'll really effectively start to generate new ideas, fresh ideas, unique ideas to your branding. And you'll notice that it is way more impactful to what it is that you're trying to do and ultimately to the goals that you're trying to reach. So let's talk about a few challenges that always come up when it comes to consistently creating content. Number one, producing high level content, right? And by high level, what I'm referring to is the quality of content. How crispy is your image? How clean is your audio, right? You're trying to figure those things out. And so that quickly can become an excuse of why you don't consistently put out content. Oh man, I don't have a camera. Oh man, I don't have right lighting, or I'm not sure. I need somebody to film me. I can't film myself. All these excuses of why you can't put out high quality content. As of today, I want you to throw that out. Right? You don't need anything other than that phone that you're watching this on to make high quality content. Right? These tools that you have in front of you will work. And in the meantime, while you're creating and you're starting to get a habit of doing it, you'll get better and better at choosing your lighting and making sure that you're in places that can capture your clean audio. Right? These are all things that happen over time. A second challenge that I always hear from people is determining what your persona is. Right? Like, who are you on camera? Who are you as a brand? Right? Figuring out what you want your story to be. Right? And I always tell people, don't just make content, be the content. Right? Your story is intriguing enough. You just haven't told it to anyone yet. It's powerful, right? There's power in storytelling and what your story is. You just have to believe in it yourself. And some of those things that you think are boring and probably, everybody experiences, there's a large amount of people and a really unique group of people that haven't had that experience yet or are going through it currently that need your help. And so your help will come with you telling a story, how you got through it, how you're going through it currently, and all those different things to go along with it. And it gives you that possibility of helping people without knowing exactly what they're experiencing. These are powerful things to do, right? And understanding who you are is a big step in creating really effective content. Here's another challenge that I always hear about for creating consistent content, and that's just your return on investment. The time that I'm spending, the money that I'm spending, all these things I'm trying to figure out, is it even worth me doing, right? I mean, today, right, there's podcasts that I produce, right, that involve other people and other individuals outside of Ryan Pineda, and they're still trying to figure out whether or not it's worth their time. I always tell them, like, look, it's important to know whether you are at where you want to be now or you're headed in that direction. Be sure that you understand where you're going. And so, for example, the individual who may have been posting for maybe 6-7 months now, and they're spending $200-$300 on an edit, every other week, and they're trying to figure out, all right, is this even worth me doing? Am I seeing the results? They have to figure out what it is that what was the goal initially? Is the goal to get leads? All right, how many people have reached out to me through my social medias to acquire my services? Or is it to kind of grow a brand and really put eyeballs on my brand? Oh man, how many views am I getting? How many comments am I getting? How much engagement? How many impressions am I making? Right? Like, these are all things to think about and really understand what your ROI is. Here's a good example. Here at Wealthy, at Wealthy Way and what we do for all of the Wealthy brands, 3 of our channels are monetized. And in fact, a channel that we haven't posted on since December of last year made 20-30 grand this year. Right? Because just off of the old videos. So sure, that's a good number, right? I'm sure most of you will take that 30 grand and be glad with what you received. For us, we don't necessarily care about what AdSense delivers, right? Because that money won't even cover what we're spending month to month. And it's important to understand why I say that. Because if I'm concerned about ROI, then I need to know what my actual goal is. This year, our main goal was to increase our watch time, right? And we did that. We achieved that goal. And in fact, the equivalent of almost 500 years were watched in the last 90 days. And so that stat stands out to me because it is what makes our company grow. And that tells me that I'm getting a return on my investment. If I can have you sit with me for a longer period of time, I know I can convert. And so my watch time was most important, not how much I was being paid in AdSense, not how many views I got on each video, whether or not I got something going viral. Right? For us, those are vanity metrics. We'll be glad if a video goes viral. Sure, that's great. Right? We'll be glad if that AdSense continues to increase and we make more every year that we do this. Sure. Of course, we want those wins. But our big win was whether or not people were spending a good amount of hours with us. And I have to say that we've achieved that so far this year. So that is a challenge, and understanding what you're going for is important, and what that goal is very important to your outcome. So let's jump into how you can never run out of content ideas, right? And when I say never, it's funny. People are like, no way. What do you mean never? Like, I've always have you ever heard of writer's block? Have you ever heard of, a brain freeze on trying to figure out what it is I want to do? Sure. And that's totally true. But there are a few ways and a few strategies that you can use that will allow you to always come up with fresh ideas and unique ideas, and really just good ideas overall that you can create content on. Number one, using the tool that you already have access to, that being the internet, your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your computer. As long as you have that internet, you can figure out what topics to talk about. So there's no excuse, number one. As long as you have the internet, you should never be able to run out of ideas. All right, when we get together and we're trying to figure out cool ideas and new ideas, fresh ideas for Ryan Pineda, we all go and do our own research separately. And I'm going to give you how I do my research specifically. I go home, right, and I spend my time with my family. I have my dinner. I go over whatever I do, and I spend that quality time with my family, because that is also important. And then as the night begins to end and everybody's kind of dying down, relaxing, the kids are falling asleep, me and my wife have had our time together, our quality time, I get on that phone and I go, all right, what is everyone else in our industry talking about? And so one way of doing that is making sure that you follow individuals that are either doing what you want to do, have achieved the success that you want to achieve, or are on the come up and working on it currently. So before I got with Ryan Pineda, I didn't follow any real estate investors. I didn't follow any finance gurus. I didn't follow any influencers that are in the business space at all, right? That just wasn't what I was into. My entire feed was sports, music, sneakers, and fashion, right? That's just what I was into, in my younger years. Now that the career path that I'm on and the industry that I'm in requires me to make that shift to know the individuals that are in our space, I follow the Grant Cardones, the Alex Ramozis, the Cody Sanchez's, the Pace Morbys, all these different influencers that continue and consistently put out content. I make sure that I'm following them so that I know what is happening. It is important for me to understand what they're doing on their platforms and what strategies that they're implementing into their social medias to understand what may or may not work for Ryan Pineda. And so you have to do that yourself. When you get on your social media, ask yourself, am I seeing the things that I need to help my company grow? The time that I'm spending on my computer, am I spending that time watching YouTube videos and things like that will help my business? Because if it's not, you need to make a change, right? Because there's no way for you to learn and know what's going on in your industry without knowing what else is happening from the people that are seeing success from it already. And so that's my first step. I get on at night, I go see, all right, what are these guys doing? What's happening? All right, what am I noticing about their platforms that they may have changed recently? What are some of the topics that they're talking about that may make for good topics, for Ryan to talk about, right? Here's an example. At the time that I'm filming this is November 2nd, I'm filming this, and we recently just put out 2 shorts of Ryan talking about the war in Israel and Palestine. Right? The first one, he shared his view of everything, right? He was very blunt, very plain, and clear on what his message was. The second one, he cleaned up what he felt he did not say in the first one. Both cases, videos did really well. Right? And whether or not people agree with what he said, or whether or not they liked or disliked the type of content that we put out, those pieces mattered because it was him getting vulnerable. What made us do that, though, is the discussion of, all right, what are some things that Ryan's passionate about and how can he react to it? Faith is one of those things. So the opportunity came for something that was trending, which is, the war, but also something that he is really passionate about in faith. And so those two things kind of tied together. That is a unique way of finding a topic. And as long as you can do that consistently, you will always be able to find a topic, right? So ask yourself, right? And if you're watching this and you're with me and you've been with me now for a few minutes, I hope you got a pen and paper too, because I want to help you through this. I want to help you understand what it is that you're trying to do. On that pen and paper, write down, these are the 3 things that I'm most passionate about, all right? Figure out what those are. All right. Now, when it comes to making content, what of those three things, or maybe more, that you have written down will allow you to talk about that is on brand and essentially aiming towards your goal? Here's another example of what I mean by that. Ryan has done content about watches. He's done content about cars. He's done content about real estate. He's done content about flipping dogs and couches and everything that you can think of. But every time we do a topic that is outside of the realm of real estate, which is what he's most known for, we relate it right back to business, right? So the couch flipping did start as like, yeah, you can flip couches and make, $6,000, $8,000, $9,000 a month, right? But if you can flip a couch, I can teach you how to flip a house, right? That's how those things go together. He talked about his watch. Hey, I bought this AP for whatever amount of money. The moment I made this video, though, it became a write-off. It was a business move. So we continue to relate it. I bought my Porsche, right? Here's my car. I love this car. Here's everything wrong with it. Here's everything that I love about it, right? Felt like a car review for those car enthusiasts. It was great content. But then we also went back. Hey, I bought it before the end of the year. It weighs this much. It's electric. I get these tax benefits, right? These are all things that he implemented within his content that he was passionate about, as well as on brand with what he is about, which is entrepreneurship, business, and investing. You have to find those unique ways of doing that. Some of you right now are going, I don't even know what I'm passionate about, truly. And I definitely don't think what I'm passionate about kind of goes hand in hand with what I want to promote. I crochet, trying to figure out how I can implement crochet into my real estate investment. I'm not sure that works, right? But show me what you're doing, right? Show me that that's something that you're passionate about, because there may also be a real estate investor or an agent out there that also likes to crochet, right? You just never know. You might be reaching people that you don't know about. Maybe when you start to make some content, you're not talking about crocheting at all, but you're just doing it in the video, and that captures someone's eye, right? So the idea of me implementing something that I'm passionate about just became good because it hooked the viewer in right away. I'm looking at your video like, why are you crocheting and telling me about the market? It's not making sense. But the great thing about it all is that it doesn't have to make sense when it's your brand. You just have to get people to see it. You have to get people hooked in, and you got to get people to know, like, and trust you. And so it's a very good possibility that what you're doing on your day-to-day that you consider a hobby or that you consider, your passion, even though it has nothing to do with your business, it may be a really useful tool when how you create and when you make content. So keep that in mind. So now I've got on these platforms and I've looked over what other people are doing, and I've come up with maybe 5 or 6 ideas for Ryan. After that, I go, okay, let's see what's going on in the world, right? Because as you know, these social media platforms are our quickest way to know what's happening in our space and in our world. And so I'll go, all right, what's trending? All right, I go to Instagram and I go on that For You page and I see what's going on, right? Or I click on some of those news sites on the internet and go to CNN and go to, all these different world news places, platforms that I'm trying to see what's happening. What are they talking about, right? Anything on here that maybe I can relate and do a short about, or I can relate and do a podcast about, will be super useful in the long run. So I'm reading these articles and I'm going, okay, today's, this market saw this happen. And I'm like, all right, that'll be good. How can I relate that to my business? Interesting. All right, and then I go and I click up and I'm scrolling back on Instagram and I see, there's a line here at Costco for gas. And as you all know, Ryan has done his videos on Costco. Both of those videos did really well. He talked about how stupid it is and for people to waste time waiting in line for a 20-cent discount on gas. Extremely interesting, way of approaching that topic. But all the Costco lovers went crazy in the comments, right? What does that have to do with his branding, Justin? I don't get it. Well, it has to do with how you spend your time as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. Are you spending it wisely? And essentially, that's what his message was, right? Do I need to save time, or do I need to save 20%, or get a 20% discount, right? These are all things to think about, right? And as an entrepreneur, it applied to everybody. For me, myself, right? I run all of his social media. right? So I'm in charge of making sure that anything that in terms of content is released on time, of the highest quality, and exactly what his vision is for that piece. And so I have to find myself often going and delegating different, responsibilities. I don't have time to review every single video that we put out. I just don't have the time. We put out, 6 reels a day. We put out 5 TikToks a day. We put out YouTube, full length YouTube videos 6 days a week. I don't have the time. So instead, I have to start to delegate those different things. And so, all right, do I save money by not hiring somebody that can do that review? Or do I just delegate it to somebody and pay them for their work? It's no different than the Costco conversation, right? Is me saving that 20% on gas worth me spending 2 hours in a line? All right. These are all things to discuss and really figure out. And so that's another way that I uniquely start to make engaging content by figuring out what it is I'm going through at the time and what makes the most sense. So finding these trending topics and what's going on and seeing what's going on social media platforms as far as, Instagram, TikTok, and knowing what's happening on these websites, trending, it's important. Here's another way of figuring out how to never run out of content ideas. Use Google Trends and use the YouTube trending page. If you click on YouTube right now and you go on the left side where it's listing off all the different, options you usually have, like the home page, the search, the podcast page, the gaming page, the YouTube TV page. You also have what is called the YouTube trending page. You go on that page, you start to look through those videos, and believe me or not, a lot of those videos aren't going to apply to what you're doing because crazy things trend, like somebody playing a video game or somebody eating chips. A little while ago, it was the nonstop trend of the NPC people that was repeating words the whole time, right? Like those are all things that are trending on that page. So there's going to be a lot that you have to kind of comb through to figure out what applies to you. But if you consistently do it, you will find things that will work. So you just have to go through and figure out what's trending and what's making it trend, whether it's title, thumbnail, audio, the hook, the intro, whatever it is, figuring out what that is about, but then also kind of collaborating with it and figuring out how to make it unique to you and kind of trend jack that, right? That's what we call trend jacking, is when we can collaborate with something or get a hold of something and start to do what that trend is doing. So YouTube, there's a page there. You could also go to Google, just google.com, and put in Google Trends. And you go to Google Trends, they give you analytics on exactly how many people are searching for it, how many people viewed it already. They give you the article, the link. You get everything that you need, and that is an even easier way to do it. You also have a search bar and a filter that allows you to filter out what it is that you're looking for. So if I go to Google Trends and I search real estate market in Google Trends, it's going to give me the top trending information. At this current time, something that is trending is the lawsuit that is going on where they've been ordered to pay, these agents $1.4 or $1.6 billion or something crazy like that, right? Like that's what's trending. So this is a perfect time to make a video about that, right? These are ways of doing it, right? I'm trying to give you really key points and really good tactics on trying to figure out how to never run out of video ideas. Understanding your audience is also another way of never running out of topics, right? Because you have to research and analyze what your audience is watching, right? It makes no difference if you have an audience and you do not know what they're into, because I could go buy a follower, right? And it means nothing if I don't know what that follower is about, right? So it's more important to get that follower through an organic channel where they just like what you're already doing, but then start to pay attention to what those individuals are watching as well. YouTube tells you how many other people are following a page. You just got to search it, right? You can get on these platforms and you can go, okay, let me see what my top commenters are saying, right? And I'm looking through the comments and I click on their page and I see who else they're following, right? I always look, when somebody follows me and I check out their page, I always look to see who else they're following. Are they following other content creators? Are they following other people in real estate? Are they following other YouTube and Instagram strategists? Who are they following that it may be similar to me? Because if it is similar, then I know that they like their content. So I should probably start seeing what type of content to make and so what type of topics those individuals are watching. For a long time now, I've been friends with Omar El Takori at Think Media. And one thing I know is that the individuals that are in our programs, that are following me, that are watching, some of the things that Ryan does, they may also be following him. And reason being is because where he is an expert at YouTube and YouTube strategy, they also have found me through some of those channels. And so understanding that his audience is liking and engaging with his content lets me know that I may need to be making and talking about some of those same topics. So if you're smart and you understand that, you may not ever run out of topics if you know your competitors are talking about certain things. Believe it, and you better believe it, that they're also watching what you're doing. I learned early when I was traveling around the country with Ryan Pineda, when he has speaking engagements or we're going out of town to film podcasts, that a lot of the individuals who may be considered at a higher level when it comes to content creation, with their following, with their engagement, with their audience, they're paying really close attention to what he's doing, right? When I'm listening in on these conversations or I'm having a conversation with their producer behind the scenes, they already knew and were aware of some of the things that we had already accomplished on these platforms. And so whether or not you feel like you need to pay close attention to what other individuals in your space are doing, or you need to look into what some of their topics are, know that they're watching you as well, especially if you're consistently putting out content that's having impact. So believe it or not, you shouldn't feel like any kind of like pressure, but you also shouldn't feel like you can't kind of do what you see other people are doing in terms of finding inspiration in their topics and their discussions. So in knowing that right now, write down your list of 3 people that you're following and that you need to check out, right? You need to see what they're talking about, right? Are they in your same industry? Are they talking about some of the same things that you want to talk about? How are they approaching it? How are they creatively approaching the topic to make the content, right? Pay close attention to those things because you will never run out of topics by doing that. As I mentioned those comments, I want you to understand too that is another unique way of figuring out what to talk about next. The reason why I'm discussing this with you today is because it was down in my comments on one of my videos. Someone wanted to know, how do I keep coming up with new and fresh ideas? Well, the comments are a great way to figure that out. They're telling you, your audience is giving you ideas and topics, things that they want to learn from you. You just have to be a good listener, a good observer, and understand that is what's happening. If one person has a question in your comments, there are thousands of people that have the same question. And so if you can deliver a piece of content in a video that solves their problem, you'll see tremendous growth on your platform. That is what these platforms are, right? And this is what I mean. You really want your page to grow and you really want to create engaging content and never run out of ideas. Understand this. Number 1, figure out what the audience wants to know, right? What is the question? What is the one thing that you have to offer that they want to learn from you? Number 2, take that, deliver a message in such a unique way that it captivates them and captures their attention. Thirdly, make sure that you're clear on what the response is, right? What is the answer to the problem, right? When you're solving that problem, it does you no good if you can't clearly communicate it and make it clear on what you're trying to say, because they want to know actionable steps. When you make it actionable, which would be the fourth step, now you've delivered a super valuable piece. And you've got the understanding of what it means to create effective content. Now you just have to figure out how to consistently do that. So understanding those 4 pieces will get you to where you're trying to go. You just have to really dive into those comment sections and dive into other people's comment sections and figure out how to get these topics done, because you have the answers, right? You're doing it. You're actively doing it in your business right now. Again, something that you think is really simple is super valuable to some others. You just have to figure out how to illustrate that and put that on video, put that on audio to make people want to hear it and give somebody something actionable that they can do immediately, right? Those are the best content creators, are those that give us steps to take right away, right? I often watch content on tech, right? I'm trying to figure out what's the new tech coming out, whether it's AI or whether it's something physical. In understanding what that tech is, or in understanding what it is that is working, I want to know, how can I get it right away? How can I use it right away, right? And then if you give me all the steps that it takes so that I can just go and do it, that's the easiest way to sell me, right? You got me sold. And in fact, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to comment. I'm going to like it. And I'll be back when you release something else as well. There are creators right now that are in the tech space, whether it's physical or just AI, that have sold millions of dollars in product, more than any company could ever sell by placing it on a shelf, right? And they've done that because I trusted you after your first video because you gave me exactly what to do. I did it and it worked, right? So believe me, you have the capability of doing that. Just figure out what your topic's going to be by going and combing through those comments. So let's get into a different kind of way of creating. We've gone over a few things. We talked about how you can research. We talked about how you can use comments from your audience. We've done a few different ones, but this one's a little bit different from the usual, right? And that's repurposing. One thing that we're really good at here in the Wealthy Way and all the production that we put out for all of our wealthy brands is we repurpose content, right? That means we take podcasts, we cut them up. We take podcasts, we make mashups. We'll release some of the same videos over again. We're still releasing old videos from the podcast with its previous branding. Before it was the Wealthy Way, it was the Ryan Pineda Show. And right now you can go find mashups that are 4 to 5 hours long on our page from those old episodes before we even rebranded to the Wealthy Way. The reason being is that there's just a lot of value in what you're doing. And so the repurposing will just help you get it out further, right? I mentioned before the Costco video. That was not the first time that he talked about it. It was actually the second time that he talked about it. He just remade the video. But we also could just repost the old video, and now it's repurposed and used to push out the content even further. So there's many different ways of repurposing. Let me speak a little bit about, the mashup concept. And I think what people see or when they hear what in mashup is that I have to take a nice collection of content that I've already created, put it together, but it needs to be on the same topic. It needs to flow fluently, right? And that's the furthest from the truth. Our mashups have some podcasts in them. They have some dynamic video of home tours. They have, all kind of different pieces of content that he's created. Now, is there kind of like a storyline to it? Sure, right? We don't want to put content that's based on, wholesaling with content that's based on flipping, right? We want to if it's wholesaling, we want to give you 3 hours of different wholesaling conversations. If it's flipping, we want to give you, 2 hours of flipping conversations, whether that be with different guests, whether that be with just Ryan solos, it doesn't matter, right? But we want to put those all together. That flipping mashup, for example, that mashup will have Ryan on a podcast with another individual or another investor that flips, and they're going over their numbers and their strategies and all the tips that he gave in his episode. The next clip that it would cut to would be Ryan walking around one of his flips, right? Showing you what he decided to do. Oh, I knocked out this wall. I did this. I made the kitchen bigger by doing this, blah, 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 right? And then from there, it'll go from, him in his home back to a podcast set. And maybe this time it's not the Wealthy Way set, it's the old Ryan Pineda Show set. And he's talking to Clint Cooper who flips homes, or, these are all different types of ways of doing it, right? It may go from that to showing him looking through a flip that's not completed yet. It's under construction, right? And he's showing how, the wood studs, you had to move this because there's a beam here and blah, blah, blah. These are all things that we put in within this one mashup. And the value in that is that people can watch for 3 hours and get all different types of content all on one accord in one kind of issue. And so that's what you're trying to do when you're creating these mashups. It's not important about it looking good, right? Because I know for us, some of those old videos are from 3 years ago, right? Our quality was worse. We destroyed the audio, right? Whatever we could do wrong with audio, we did it. Right? And this is all in our trial phase. Like I said before, your first videos are your worst videos, and these for sure were our worst videos. But I can say that no one that is watching that amount of time for that amount of value cares that much about the quality. So a mashup is known, right, by us to be, maybe a little less quality, maybe it's great. It can go either direction. So you have that option, right? And you should really look into that. Some of you may have had a YouTube channel 3 years ago that you stopped doing, right? And it's got 100 videos on there. It was 100 videos before you decided to give up. First, I want to say if you would have never gave up, you would have been sitting in a really comfortable seat of content creation right now. You probably would have saw great impact on your business. That's first. But I truly want to say that those 100 videos are still really valuable to you. You can take those videos and create mashups from them videos to launch and start over and really get your channel active again. And now as you're creating new content, you already have content created that you didn't have to go make. So believe me, you have that possibility and you can do it, just finding the right ways to really approach it. Before we move on, I want to mention Wealthy Creator and Pineda Media. Wealthy Creator is the education program hosted and created by Ryan Pineda and myself, where we teach people how to level up their content and quickly monetize it. We do 2 calls a week. And so, those calls are recorded. It's options for you to watch later, but it is a grown community, right? And this community has seen people go from 0 followers, no views, to hundreds of thousands of followers and views. I even have testimonials from people who have gone on to speak on stages and become household names in their industry. I want to offer that to you right now. You can click the link below where you see Wealthy Creator and get hooked in and really get connected with our community so that you can start to grow your content, get feedback, get consultations, get one-on-ones, and really have the ability to kind of grow and scale your business through your social media. And then I also want to tell you, if your holdup is I don't have editing, I don't have filming, I don't have any of those things, then Pineda Media is the way to go. It's a complete service for you where we can film for you here in studio. You can use our equipment, our lighting, our setups. We can take your filming at home or whatever you do on your location. We can get that edited, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a short. And there's different packages that they have that will help you to scale and grow your business. Along with that, you can also get that one-on-one time with account managers. There's opportunities to have one-on-ones with me, a certain amount of times per month. And then you have the ability to really grow without all of the pressure of making sure that everything gets completed on the back end. So right now, if you're interested, click the links below. Be sure that, when you fill out your information, that it is true to what you're trying to do, that you know your goal, and we can get going right away on your content. All right, so my final way of really never running out of topics has to do with real world experience. And that is just getting out there, going to these events, going to the conferences, going to the workshops, going to the virtual challenges and workshops, right? You want to have the opportunity to get into these rooms with like-minded individuals. These individuals have some of the same challenges you do, have some of the same losses that you do, have some of the same wins that you do. And within that, there are stories being told. And with those stories, you can create really good and engaging content. And so I want to encourage you now to get into those rooms, right? Talk to people, right? Interview people. Have that real in life, communication with individuals, right? I always said this, and I shared this at a workshop recently. I said people love to get on FaceTime, right? They love that phone, right? They love that phone, but they truly never actually give people FaceTime. And what I mean, FaceTime is cool, right? I use it all the time, right? I come from Chicago. I live in Las Vegas, and all of my family is still in Chicago. So we use FaceTime as a really good tool to stay in touch and stay communicated. My sons are on it every day, right? But what real FaceTime is me getting in a room with you, getting the opportunity to feel your presence, feel your energy, feel your spirit, and get to have that communication one-on-one. Within that, though, I learned so much about you, right? And in that, it really sparks and inspires and will lead to new topics and new, things to really put out on my social media platform. It's not that I'm using you as a tool to create content, but you're inspiring me on what to discuss and what to talk about. But that FaceTime tends to make for better content, right? It tends to lead me down the path of where I can create really engaging things. So that brain freeze that we talked about, that writer's block that we talked about, that FaceTime cures all of that, right? You can ask any, New York Times bestseller. They're going to tell you, when I'm struggling, when I'm trying to write, I get out and about. I go into the city. I get into rooms where people are, and I just listen. I observe, and I do those things to really be able to kind of nurture my creativity, learn from people, and have something real to say. You have something real to say. You have topics that are great. If you ever feel like you're running out of topics, tell your story. Let people know what your experiences have been, and then let people know what your goals are. That is how you never run out of topics. Thank you. This has been an episode of Wealthy Creator Podcast. Thank you for joining me.